Hey everybody, I'm Heather Spencer, and this is Hey Bay City.
Woo! So Heather Spencer, 20th anniversary of your salon, and also recently you were deemed one of the top 200 salons in America. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
I'm really excited to talk to you. We were talking a little bit about before recording that we see each other at community meetings and we say hi, sometimes do a little chat in the meetings, but we've never actually sat down to talk. So this is exciting for me on a personal level.
Same for me. Thanks for having me, Phil.
So let's start with just like a bare bones 101. Who are you? What do you do?
I ask myself that every day, Phil.
What am I doing?
Right. So I am one who just sort of always knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. Like I was always drawn to doing hair. I knew it was very natural for me out of high school to become a hairstylist and to go to cosmetology school. Started doing hair when I was 19 years old. And then along the way, I had started educating for a product company, going in and out of salons, teaching haircuts, styles, finishes, things like that. Mm. And I think that's sort of what drew me to kind of go, I wonder what it would look like to open my own salon, because I was starting to see so many different realms of running a business and having a salon. And so I had a coworker at the time who was also doing similar work, and we kind of connected. And in 2004, when we were 24 and 22 years old, we opened a Spencer Jalise salon.
Wow,
I know,
that's
right?
early.
Yeah,
like in a typical like entrepreneur lifetime, at least now, like fresh out of quote unquote college age, you're already jumping in your first business. What was that like?
You know, it's funny because people will sometimes say, you know, you were so brave. And I don't know if it's even that we were so brave. It's just that we had no idea what could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, I mean this in the best way, because I was the same way. Yeah, you're blissfully ignorant. Yes. You're just full of passion and you just want to conquer the world. And so you jump in.
Yep. We just jumped in head first. And, you know, we had experienced some level of success as stylists. So we were very confident in our technique and in our vision of, you know, creating this great salon experience for our guests. We did have a lot to learn along the way about what it truly meant to run a business and to be good leaders within that business.
And we're going to talk about leadership in just a little bit. What was the thing that really drew you into becoming a hairstylist and kind of this realm? Was it the craft of it? Was it like kind of a social aspect? Was it self-image? Tell me about that.
You know, I think, you know, growing up, it was just sort of this innate thing that I just loved the idea. Maybe it was the artistry of doing hair. But then as I started going and realizing how much I was making a difference in the lives of the people that I was serving, you know, when you do somebody's hair and you turn them toward the mirror and they're like, oh my gosh, I love it. You know that you're doing something that's making somebody feel so good about themselves. So I think it was, you know, an act of service that I felt really good about. And that was also a big part of why I was drawn to the industry.
Yeah, I used to build guitars for my brother. And the highlight for me, it wasn't so much the craft of it, because I had just left teaching and I desperately needed a job. So it was like I wasn't really called to the work of it, the artistry of it. But the moment of handing somebody something that you had made and seeing their reaction. In this world, it was handing a musician a guitar that is going to allow them to create the music that they want better, or this is something that they've always wanted, and you see their face light up, and it's like, I've made their life better in some way. I would imagine in a salon, I'm bald. I haven't spent a lot of time there. I would imagine you turn somebody around in the chair and they see themselves for the first time in that mirror, and that kind of moment of, oh my gosh, this looks amazing, has to be just electric.
Yeah, it's very fulfilling, and it gives you a sense of purpose. You feel very purposeful because you're not just doing this something that's making somebody look beautiful, but they are feeling beautiful too.
Yeah, that's awesome. You also just reopened, correct?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So, well, we figured it was our 20th anniversary, 20 years in business. It was time for a little bit of a facelift. So we renovated our whole salon. So we own the building, and we had kind of come to a place where we were outgrowing it a little bit. So we needed to recreate the space to allow ourselves a little bit more opportunity for growth. So we were very fortunate to have found a vacant salon a couple blocks from the salon that we were operating out of. And we moved our whole operation at the end of December to a vacant salon so we could stay in business and keep running. And we gutted our whole salon space and recreated it.
How awesome that you found a vacant salon to keep operating out of, because we'll dive into your renovations in a second. But anytime you say, oh, this should take about a month or two,
yep,
it ends up being twice as long and twice as expensive, and you can still operate then.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So what kind of renovations did you do?
So we took out some walls to create more space. We were able to add a couple more styling stations, so that gives us an opportunity to grow our team a little bit. We added a couple more shampoo bowls, so that obviously more people were going to need more space for that. And we are opening up our break room a little bit more too, to create a little bit more space for everybody back there. So it's just the organization of the way the salon is set up, and also being able to create more space to bring on more people was very exciting to us. Very
cool. Something that I noticed as I was stalking your salon on the internets was it's very clear that there's a team mentality at the salon. It's not just you and your business partners' faces all over it. Like you see group shots all the time, and you see other people all the time. So talk to me about who actually works at the salon and a little bit about your team.
Well, I love that you said that, and you recognize that just from the posts and stuff that we were making, because that is something that's very, very important to myself and my business partner, is that we have a culture that says we're a team and we work together as a team. And so that is something that we are very, very focused on. So there's 9 of us there all together right now. We have one salon coordinator who is not a licensed cosmetologist, but she helps coordinate all the events and the activities and the front desk and everything that happens in the salon. And it's always great to have somebody like that who kind of can see things from another perspective, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's amazing. And then we have, I actually personally retired from behind the chair 2 years ago so that I could focus on the growth and development of the company. So I'm not actively behind the chair anymore, but I'm still very active in the salon business. So the other 7 are stylists, and then we do have one that's an assistant in the salon right now.
Oh, very cool. Because sometimes like salons and barbershops to operate with like contractors, and sometimes it can end up feeling like, yeah, we have this space and we have a bunch of different people who kind of all operate independently, and we're not really, but it seems like you have a kind of a community of people trying to make this work.
Well, we do. And actually we operate our salon a little bit differently. So we are an employee-based salon.
Oh.
Everybody is a W-2 employee. So that is part of probably why you see that difference.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when, and not that I'll never, there's room in the industry for everybody to run their business accordingly, but when you are in a booth rent or a contracting situation, everybody is kind of their own boss. And so it's sometimes a little bit harder to create that team mentality. Not that it can't be done, and I've seen people that do it well. But for us, the reason we run our business that way is because that does create more opportunity for us as business owners and leaders to create that type of culture.
Yeah, yeah. Well, talk to me about retiring. That was how long were you a stylist before, like, this thought of I need to get out from behind the chair to work on the business? How long were you a stylist before that thought kind of came into your brain?
The thought, so I was doing hair for 24 years before I actually retired from behind the chair, but I had been thinking about that for a good 3 or 4 years prior to. I just kind of felt that we had come to a place where it was going to be really difficult for the business to grow beyond where it had, or for me to help the stylist in our company develop beyond where they were, because I was so multi-focused. It was so hard to be so active and busy behind the chair serving guests when I really needed to be serving my team. And so I started kind of doing like a 50-50 split. I was doing hair for a couple of days a week and then a couple of days, just being in working administratively in the salon. And the more I started seeing success from me being out from behind the chair and the fact that I was able to help my team grow, turnover rates were dropping because people felt like they were better served in our company. And it really made me more and more passionate about wanting to go that direction. So I loved doing hair and I loved my clients dearly. That was a difficult decision, but I also knew for the betterment of my company, that's really what I needed to do.
It's that entrepreneurial advice that you need to be working on the business and not in the business. And as somebody kind of in a position trying to, at the beginning of making decisions like this, when you said some days I'd be administrative and other days I'd be behind the chair, for me mentally, just like that task switching of roles is really, really hard because it's like, well, I'm gonna be admin on Tuesday, and then all of a sudden somebody's like, hey, I can only do the interview on Tuesday. Can you come over then? And it's like, well, okay, then I go do that, and then you realize, well, I just broke my rule. Like I'm not really fulfilling that role. I'm just kind of saying I am without actually doing it.
Yeah. And that absolutely does happen. And that's why when I did retire from behind the chair, I had to be like, no one, even though there was some that I was like, maybe I would, but I'm like, nope, I can't, because if I say yes to that person, I should be saying yes to that one. And I just really know that my focus needs to shift.
Yeah. It's like, it becomes your mission. Like, this is my one mission, not my sometimes mission, or when I'm not in the mood, then I'll book somebody for Thursday.
Yep. Exactly.
Like that. What to you? I mean, you've got such a great team, and you guys have been around for 20 years and top 200 in the nation. To you, what makes first a great hairstylist, and then what makes a great salon?
Well, I think what makes a great hairstylist is someone who has the attitude of a servant. We are in this industry to serve, and like I said earlier, it's not just about making people feel or look beautiful. Like, they're not just coming in because you're so skilled and amazing at what you do, but the ultimate goal is to make people, when they walk out of the company or out of the business, you're leaving them better than you found them. So I think what makes a great hairstylist is somebody who is, passionately driven, continues to educate themselves, is on top of their skill technically, but truly cares about each and every person that sits in their chair.
It's like similar to, popped in my brain, a doctor. Like, you can be an amazing doctor and the best in the country, but if every time you walk in, people feel disregarded and like, bro, you are not listening to me at all, you're not really a great doctor. You're like, technically you're a great doctor, but there's going to be a huge amount of disconnection that's going to prohibit you from actually treating this person and making them healthy. And I imagine being a stylist is the same way. You can cut hair with the best of them, but if people don't want to sit in your chair,
well,
you got an issue.
And it's so interesting that you brought that up, because one thing that I share with my team often is we actually have more power in our industry to touch than even a doctor. So if you go see a doctor, he has to ask you permission. Like, okay, you're hurt here. Can I touch you on your elbow here? When people sit down in our chair, our hands are on their heads, on their shoulders throughout the whole conversation, throughout the whole service. And what that does is it makes people, they will open up and tell you things. That's why we call ourselves the unpaid psychologists. So we're not just doing hair, we're hearing people's lives. And you develop those relationships with people. And even for myself, starting to do hair at 19 years old, and I had clients when I retired from behind the chair that had been with me the whole time. They came through my marriage. They came through me having children. They came through us opening the salon. And I was in their lives through every exciting moment and every heartbreaking moment. And you just develop that relationship. And so, I think what makes you a great stylist is the communication that you have and the connection that you have with the client sitting in your chair.
I had seen it said once that breaking up with your stylist is harder than breaking up with like a romantic partner.
I believe that's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because you're sitting. There's something really disarming, and I get the privilege of this as somebody who interviews folks for a living. There's something really disarming about coming into a space where somebody who you don't have like like a family relationship or a romantic relationship or a professional relationship with. You come into this space and they just pay attention to you and they ask you questions and they give you space to talk. It's a powerful space. It's a rare space. Like when in your life do you sit down in a chair and talk to somebody that you know you can trust 100%?
Right.
It's almost never.
Yeah.
But I would imagine as Salon is the same way. Like I get to walk in and for an hour I get to talk to this woman who's going to listen to me and talk to me and like, oh my God, I can't believe that. And it's just safe to communicate.
Absolutely. And the one thing that we really drive hard in the salon, as far as our culture, is that we want when people come into our salon and they sit in our chair to feel like they're in an oasis, right? The world is crazy. People's lives, their jobs, they come in after a long, hard day at work or, you know, being with their kids or whatever, and they just want to like, you know, take that deep breath and feel pampered and feel loved and feel heard. And that's all a huge part of what we do beyond the technical skill of giving them a great hairstyle.
I've said this, I think in a very early podcast was Oprah, when she retired from her regular news talk show career, she had interviewed 37,000 people and somebody had interviewed her and said, is there something they have in common? And she said that every single person has the same desire. They want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to feel important. And I would imagine that with the women that come in and sit down in your salon, here's an opportunity, maybe the only opportunity they have, unfortunately, to feel all three of those things. I feel seen because like you're in my chair and you're telling me what you want and what you want to look like and maybe insecurities that you might have. I don't like this, and can we do something about this? And you feel heard because I'm cutting your hair, but you're listening to me and you feel important. Like there's one person that I'm focused on right now, and that's you. And that's amazing.
Yeah, our mission statement is to cultivate beauty and empower the soul, one custom crafted experience at a time. So we really drive that home with our team. Like this is what we're here for. Yes, we're cultivating beauty. We're giving them the look that they desire, but we're also empowering their soul. We want them to leave feeling like, oh, I feel so much better, so good about my life, right? So that's and we do it by customizing each experience. Everybody's going to be different when they walk in the door. Their needs, their desires, their lifestyles, they're all going to be different. And so we have to be aware of that and how we respond and how we treat the guest when they're in our chair.
Yeah, and the only way that you are aware of those differences and what people actually want, because sometimes there's a division between what people say and what they want. Like they're saying words, but you have to be able to listen to them and say, well, what are they actually after?
Yeah.
I hear that all the time. Like I'm taking a photo of somebody and they crack a little joke about, like, can you get rid of my double chin? Ha 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 ha. It's like, well, on the surface of that is a joke. But underneath that is the possibility that they are very serious about that. They don't want to say it in those words.
Right.
So like my midsection, you're like, can you make me lose 50 pounds before this? And I need to be able to listen to that so that I don't shape them at an angle that makes all of their insecurities very apparent, because they're saying one thing, but their desire is another. And that takes listening. You got to be able to listen.
Listen to understand, not just to respond.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Amen. So what makes then a good salon?
I think, one of the things that we've been largely focused on, when you look at a salon that's been in business for 20 years, if we did things the same way we did them 20 years ago, we wouldn't still be solvent. So I think, one of the things that we really focus on is the constant evolution of what our company looks like. And some of the things that we've found as society has changed, as variables have changed, that we've had to change a little bit too, in order to lead and guide our team through that. So I think the things that make a great salon now are, continued education. Are you continually educating yourself as a salon owner and a salon leader so you know where things are changing and how to get ahead of that? Are you educating your team so that they're technically sound? I think having a great culture in your company is huge, not just for the clients. Like you said, you went on our page and you saw that everybody seemed like they were a team. The clients love that, but you know who else loves that? Future employees.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know how many times that I've been in an interview and I've said, why did you choose a Spencer Julie salon? What was it? Do you know how often I get told, because when I looked at your social media and I saw how much fun you guys have together and how you all seem to get along, it made me want to be part of that.
Yep.
So I'm looking at it from both angles. Yes, we obviously want the guests to come in. We've had people say, it feels so good in here. I love that I never feel like there's tension. Like you can tell if there's tension in a salon. If stylists aren't getting along, or there's something, any organization, you can tell, right? And it doesn't feel good.
I love that you say that, because after almost 5 years of doing this work across the country, like you walk into a business and you can feel the energy in the room. Like you can feel, do the employees not get along with their boss? Like what kind of employer is the boss? Like do people take their work seriously? Like you just walk through the door and you can feel it in the air. And that's not like, I'm an empath and I can, like, this is my magical power. Like everybody can, whether or not they put it into words or whatever. It's like people walk in and then they'll turn around and walk back out because they just feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's true. So I love every time somebody will say something like, we just love the energy in here. Everybody seems like they get along. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's very intentional.
Yes.
And I love that you see it.
Yeah. And the fact that you said that you've had employee say, or people that you've interviewed say, I was interested because it looks like you guys are having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that so much, because sometimes we take ourselves too seriously. We want to be the best at what we do, and we want to be professional, and we want to do all these things. But we also should take a moment and say we all need to enjoy what we're doing, and not only because it makes us better at what we do, but just for, like, if we're going to spend 8 hours a day here doing this, we might as well have a little bit of fun along the way.
Yeah, we always say you need to love what you're doing, who you're doing it with, and who you're doing it for. And so we had started initiating at least quarterly outings in the salon, like where we all just get out of the salon, we go do something fun together, and that helps build culture, that helps build teamness. I mean, we're very big on continued education. We do one-on-one coaching with our team every month. We do team meetings every month just to keep everybody inspired and on the same track. But I think it's that getting out of the salon together and having fun together, like you said, that truly makes our culture what it is.
I think I need a second career. I don't know anything about hair, but man, it sounds killer. Something this is a good segue to something you brought up earlier about leadership. That you, part of the reason why you retired from being behind the chair was to really focus on this idea of leadership. And along with stalking your salon on the Face Place, I did a little bit of stalking on you, and I ran across this quote that you had about leadership. I love leadership, not because I'm innately good at it, but because I struggle with it, and I had to learn how to become better at it. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
I think people make changes in their lives for one of two reasons. Either they've experienced enough pain that they go, oh, something has to change, or they've somehow been motivated and inspired by something that's happened in their life, and they go, yeah, I want to make that change too. For me, it was the pain points. I had come to a place where I was looking at our business going, okay, high turnover rates, low profitability. The culture is not what I want it to be. I'm disappointed in myself. I don't want to keep disappointing other people. What am I missing? What do I not know that if I did know could change the trajectory of our business, maybe change the course of my life? And so I just started going into this deep research of what is it that I'm missing? And leadership was the thing that I kept landing on. And so I started just really digging in deep and leaning into that. Like, what did it mean? What did I need to know about becoming a better leader? Books, conferences, classes, and that landed me in the John Maxwell Leadership University. It was kind of a year-long course that I took with the intention of, I want to become a better leader. But what it was ultimately doing was setting me up to be a speaker, coach, and trainer in leadership. And that really wasn't my desire or my intention in the beginning. But what started happening was the more that I would learn things and start applying them and seeing the success that I was having with it, the more driven I became toward that and the more excited about it. And the more I was like, man, everybody needs to know this. Everybody needs it because this is life-changing. It's literally game-changing. So it literally changed the course of my life personally, honestly, and even where we were able to go with the business.
Wow. Yeah, the idea of learning skills that improve your life regardless of who you are, it's so that idea is so exciting to me. I come from a little bit of a similar experience where I realize like I can't live my life just isolated in social anxiety for the remainder of my years, because that's not life. That's not healthy. Like, you're essentially looking at the end of your life, because I was at the point where I was physically incapable of talking to people I didn't know. And I think that coming from this spot of realizing like I am not good at this, and so I have to figure out how to get better at it, makes for a really powerful perspective, because somebody who is innately great at something, they can walk into a room and they can be the leader. They can't necessarily teach somebody how to be a leader, because they're just like, well, you just do it.
Right.
You just do it. And meanwhile, we're sitting here like, yeah, but how do you do it? Like, well, you just like talk loud and you try to be charismatic, and like, well, how do I be charismatic? Like, they can't communicate from the same place. But if you started from the bottom up, you are in a great position to teach other people how to be great leaders, because you can say, let me tell you a story about a failing salon.
Yeah.
Or let me tell you a story about somebody who was physically incapable of talking to other people.
There's credibility in that when you've been someone who struggled. And, I think the unfortunate thing is when people experience those painful situations, they can do one of two things, right? They can go, man, that sucked. I'm never doing that again. They withdraw, they abort, they're just done. Or they can say, man, that sucked. I'm never doing that again. What do I need to do differently so that next time it's different? It's easy to blame variables. It's easy to blame other people and say, well, they didn't understand, or well, it could have been, or it should have been, or the economy or the industry or whatever. But we always we're never at the mercy of the variables around us. We always have choices to make our life different. And I think for me, that's where I had to look at what am I doing as a leader? How do I make that difference? And So I just started one step at a time, moving towards it.
Wild. So something that you had also said in one of the posts that I had stalked you on was that you believe there are 3 key areas of leadership: that you lead yourself first. That's number 1. Number 2, lead other people, and then 3, develop other leaders. So let's take these one at a time. So lead yourself first. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that was honestly the biggest aha for me. You can't be, when you're a leader, you have to be somebody, you don't have to be perfect, but you want to be somebody that people look at and go, I want to be like that person. How do I do what they're doing? And if you're the leader that's showing up at 9:05 every day, but you're telling everybody else to be there at 8:45, that's not going to work. If you're the leader that is coming in and you're stressed out, overwhelmed, time management isn't good, nobody's going to look at you and be like, oh yeah. So for me, it was learning to look at the places in my life and go, if I wanted to look up to somebody, what would that look like? And how do I need to live my life accordingly? Even right down to how we physically take care of ourselves, right? If we're not getting enough sleep and we're coming in with bags under our eyes the next day, are we able to perform at the level that people need us to perform at? We're not. Okay, so it's to me, it was all of those things wrapped up in one: physically, emotionally, mentally, financially. How do you take care of yourself so you're in a place that people look at and go, okay, yeah.
Yeah, listening to you reminds me of something a friend said to me a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, on a phone call, and he said that you can't give somebody something that you don't have. And I've been kind of chowing down on that idea for the last couple weeks, in that especially if you are on a mission for something, like whether it's leadership or building community or things like that. Like you can really get caught up in the weeds of learning more, or the idea of something, or you can get caught up in the hustle of it because there's just so much work to do, and you really want to see this change made in the world. And before you know it, you personally don't experience any of those things. Like you kind of wake up at the end of 2 weeks or 6 months or 3 years or whenever the burnout happens, and you just kind of feel like you're parroting things, and you're just kind of repeating the same ideas, but you don't really feel community, or you don't really feel like a leader, or you don't really feel like you're making any sort of difference in the world. And this idea of you have to lead yourself first, I love that idea. It's like, well, if your work comes from you, and you actually believe that this is important and true, you have to embrace that for yourself. You can't just give it to other people and expect them to listen to you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So then element number 2, lead other people. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, when I first started on this journey of leadership, my thought was, how do I get people to do what I want them to do, right? Selfishly.
Yeah.
But what I learned is that isn't it at all. You know that little game when you're a little kid and you do follow the leader and everybody has to do what the person in the front of the line goes? I totally think we should change the rules of that game, because that is not leadership. Leadership is not being out in front. It's coming alongside of someone and saying, what are your goals in this company? What are you trying to achieve? And how can I help you accomplish that goal? And so really for me, when I stopped looking at leadership through the lens of, I always need to be out in front, I always need to be leading the way, like, come on, everybody, do what I'm doing. And I started really looking at it as, how do I come alongside of someone and go, how can I help you accomplish your goals? That was game changing, because as we mentioned a little bit earlier in our conversation, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And when people truly feel like you care about them as an individual and what's important to them, they're going to be much more willing to allow you to inspire them and encourage them.
Yep. I used to be a teacher. I used to teach middle school. And
God bless you.
Yeah, and God bless all the teachers out there, because oh my goodness,
I have 2 middle schoolers. Jeez. God bless you.
I was not a good college student. I'll say that publicly. But one of the things that I really took away from my experience in college was we had a principal from an inner city school in Milwaukee come to the college and talk with us about his experience and about their approach as a school, and they used I don't want to say like a discipline methodology, but I'll say it that I'm sure there's some fancy educational term for it, called love and logic. And the idea behind love and logic is exactly what you're saying, is we can't make anybody do anything. Like, it doesn't matter how much money you have or how much power you have or a threat of death. Like, it doesn't matter. You cannot make another human being do anything. There is a moment when you say something or you send an email, there's a moment of decision in their brain where they decide, am I going to listen to you and do that, or am I not going to listen to you and not? They are the person that makes that decision. And so the idea behind love and logic is that you create an environment that first creates that sense of trust, that they understand that you have their best interests in mind, but then also you empower the students in a way that allows them to feel like they're making their own decisions. It's not Principal Ike coming in and making you do stuff. It's me saying, I love you too much to allow you to do that. And then they're thinking, oh, wow, he does love me. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Like, oh, that is an amazing decision. Now let's talk about how to go forward from here. And now you're empowering them. And it sounds like this approach to leadership is similar. It's like you are the guide on the side, to use another educational term. You're not saying, this is what you need to do, and this is your answer, and here's your 5-step process. You're asking questions, and you're listening, and you're cultivating, rather than saying, Follow me to success.
Yeah. They say leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less.
Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that a lot. So then step number 3, develop other leaders. Tell me about that.
This is one that I think leaders tend to miss, right? Sometimes they get the lead myself, lead other people. But when it comes to developing other leaders, I think it's so sad when I hear people say things sometimes like it's lonely at the top or leadership is lonely, because it doesn't have to be. And what you'll often find is people on your team, there's probably a lot of them that possess leadership skills that want to be utilized as a leader, right? Mm-hmm. So what I found, honestly, in the past when we've had turnover, a lot of times it's because somebody left because they had leadership skills and they wanted to go express those leadership skills, right?
Yeah.
So I think developing other leaders is an important part. When you see that somebody has leadership skills and they deserve to be developed in that aspect, it's very important to do that. And it helps you as a leader to kind of multiply your level of influence, right? So if you're just leading other people, you can only go so far. But what if you develop other leaders that can help continue to lead other people? You can spread your level of influence. So in the salon, we do have other leaders that we've started to build up and develop so that our team knows that if myself or my business partner aren't available, this is the person you turn to. If you have hair questions, this is the person that you turn to. If you have anything else system related or company related. Outside of that, one of the things that, you and I met through the Bay Area Chamber of Commerce, right? We're both very actively involved on the board. I did Leadership Bay County last year, an amazing organization, an opportunity for me to build and grow as a leader. And now I'm an class advisor for the next class.
Oh, cool.
So that's given me an opportunity also to look at them and go, how do I help develop other people to get out in the community and be able to be stronger, better leaders? So I think when we really look at what it looks like to develop other leaders, we're multiplying our level of influence instead of just adding that to each person.
I love that so much, because like part of leadership is understanding your own personal limitations. Like you cannot be responsible for the success of every element, every person, other people's businesses, other people's salons, every aspect of the community. And so I love this idea of growing other leaders, whether or not they're, quote, officially a leader, whether they've got president by their name or CEO by their name, they can, these elements of leadership, like you can be an employee and still be an amazing leader. You could be a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, still be an amazing leader. The elements are still the same. And I love this idea of creating like an army of leaders, because in this work, talking about how do we cultivate stronger communities, like that's what we need. We need more and more people saying, I have these skills to offer the world. I can be a leader in some kind of capacity, and I can contribute, and I can grow other leaders, and then that's where the magic happens. I love it. Oh, I love it so much. What are you currently doing in regards to like leadership? Do you do speaking engagements? Do you do workshops? Tell me about like that end of it.
So that was an interesting process too. As I mentioned, when I went through the John Maxwell program and I signed up hook, line, and sinker for that program. Like, I just want to know about leadership. And then on day one, they're like, and you'll be certifying to be a speaker, coach, and trainer. I was like,
Yeah.
But then what happened is as I started passionately speaking about, okay, this is game changing. This is life changing. My industry needs to know this. Hairdressers, salon owners, they need to know this. So I started just sharing that to anybody in my industry that would listen, right? Through social media, going to hair shows, teaching classes. But then what I found is this is a topic that transcends across all businesses, all organizations, all companies, all walks of life. So people started reaching out going, what are you doing? What are you doing? I see that you're talking to hairdressers and salon owners. Do you come into other organizations and businesses? And I was like, I think, yeah, I guess so. And so then it just sort of turned into this opportunity for me to be able to do workshops. And, sometimes I'll go into other companies and do workshops for them. Primarily, yes, it is within the professional beauty industry. But like I said, it's a topic that just transcends. Everybody needs to know this stuff.
Very cool. As somebody who, just started off saying, I need to be a better leader. There's some things I need to know. Did you ever see yourself in as like a public speaker, as a workshop facilitator?
I've always had an interest in public speaking. So even when I was in high school, I did public speaking class,
really?
right? I don't even know if they do that anymore. I think I totally just aged myself.
Yeah, it probably depends on the school. I kind of remember like one or two speeches, but they were probably part of a completely different class. Yeah.
Right. So I was always interested in that. And then, shortly after I started doing hair was when I was hired on by John Paul Mitchell Systems to teach classes within Salon. So it has always been something that I've been passionately driven to. Did I ever think that I would stand up and be talking about leadership, especially when I was in the valley of my business struggling, staff leaving because I was not doing my job as a leader justice. Did I ever think that I would be talking to other people about that? But I love what you said. There's something, you see something happen in someone when you look at them and say, I know what it feels like to have staff that you love walk out the door. I know what that feels like. Yep. And if I was able to turn myself around and make a difference, because I know me, I know who I am, I know the mistakes I've made, you can do it too. And when you see people connect with you on that level, there is something that just continues to drive you to want to keep doing more of that, to make a difference in the lives of other people. Yeah,
you're helping someone.
Yeah.
Like regardless of what you're teaching them or what, like you're helping somebody in a way that can make their life better because it made your life better.
Yeah.
And you say, I understand. And I think sometimes that's like we fall into this trap of following like influencers and gurus, and a lot of them have really great information, like Simon Sinek, great leaders eat last, and finding your why, and all of those things. But there's also this like chasm of disconnection between me and that person who's sold 100 million books, or whatever it is, because they're not necessarily as open to say, well, 10 years ago my business was cratering and people were leaving because of how terrible I was. Like there's a certain element of honesty and transparency that isn't quite there, and so it's regardless of their success, it's sometimes hard to listen to them. But if somebody comes into the room and says, "Let me tell you where I was 10 years ago," and all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, like she gets me," or "he understands where I'm at." Like now you're human.
Yeah.
On top of somebody saying, "Here I'm here to help you," and that changes everything.
Yeah, it's the power of connection.
Yep.
Being able to connect with people on that level.
Well, Heather, I'm so happy to have connected with you over this conversation. If people are saying, "Oh, I gotta check out Spencer Julie's Salon," where can people find you? Tell me a little bit of that info.
So to connect with the salon, we do have a website. It's www.spencerjuliesalon.com. You can also go to our Facebook or our Instagram pages, which is Spencer Julie's Salon. You can call us 989-895-6255. We're on the corner of Johnson and 3rd Street in Bay City.
Awesome. Do you have like a separate like social media account for your leadership work? And if so, tell me that info.
Yeah, usually I tell people to connect with me through Instagram. It's heather.spencer.salonlife, and they can follow me there if they want to learn more about the things that I'm sharing about leadership and connect with me there as well.
Well, people, if you are listening or watching this episode, you definitely have to do that. Heather Spencer, you're an amazing human. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Phil, thanks so much for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Cut. You're awesome.
How'd we do?
You crushed it.
Woo!
Yeah.
That was fun. You are so good at what you do.